Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Better get the cool slow, y'all, because we're having us a barbecue. Supergirl flopped at the box office this weekend. Now, Supergirl was expected to open in the $70 to $80 million range. Unfortunately, Supergirl opened up with only $38 million at the box office on a possible $175 million budget. And with that box office opening being so poor, Supergirl sadly wound up opening up worse than the Marvels, which is considered to be the worst performing female-led superhero movie in recent history. And with the complete failure of Supergirl, many Hollywood executives are now trying to wonder what went wrong as related to this movie. Now, as a writer of heroines like Isis, Esteem, Matilda Crowley, and Lilith Graves, I can tell you that from what I heard about the script for this movie, that's possibly the foundation of where a lot went wrong as related to Supergirl. Now, with Supergirl, they hired a new female screenwriter to write this female heroine, which has been par for the course with Hollywood as related to trying to write heroines that they believe will be more appealing to a female audience. Unfortunately, as they hired this female screenwriter, she really did not have a good understanding of story structure and failed to answer the two of the three critical questions. One is, what does this character want? And the other one was, why should we care? Now, that third question was about people caring, and that was one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't go to see Supergirl, and that is partially due to the fact that this screenwriter was hampered by some source material written by Tom King. Now, Tom King's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, was a very critically acclaimed comic back when it came out, and many people basically possibly thought that this story had some depth because it was inspired by the John Wayne film True Grit. Unfortunately, when it came down to that type of story, that wasn't what many audiences wanted to see in a summer blockbuster. Now, when it comes to summer audiences want to see bright, fun movies, and what they wanted, I believe, was to see a Supergirl that was basically a friendly girl next door, sort of a film that would be a nice companion to 2025's Superman. And sadly, we didn't get that as related to that movie. No, what we got as related to the 2025 Superman was a Supergirl with an attitude and it really was just really hostile. And that was further pushed in her own Supergirl movie. And as this was pushed in the second movie in James Gunn's DC universe, it basically turned off the audience who, in many cases, again, wanted a fun summer movie. Because when it comes down to summer audiences, the last thing they want to see is a super heroine who's a dreary, depressed person who's going to look to go out to drink. And that's something that most summer audiences are not interested in seeing as related to their heroines. No, when they want to see a story with a heroine, they want to see someone who basically is a girl who can be our best friend and a neighbor. And they also, the guys want to see the kind of girl they want to go out here and take out on a date. And this is the type of character that people would feel comfortable about spending 2 hours with and spending $20 to go see at the movies. Unfortunately, when it came down to James Gunn and the people who worked with him at the DC studios, they thought they could go out here and give us this edgy type character and thought that this edgy type character would be appealing to most casual audiences. And that's where they made their mistake. They thought that this drunken, miserable Supergirl would be the type of woman people would want to spend a day with. And when it comes down to most people, they don't want to spend their day with a miserable person because people already have enough stress in their lives. And if they want to watch somebody be miserable, they'll go spend time with their families, or they'll go spend time watching the 6 o'clock news for free. And if you want to go out here and have a successful movie, what you've got to do is give people a experience that basically shows them something that they can enjoy with a character that they aspire to be like, similar to 2017's Wonder Woman. Now, with 2017's Wonder Woman, women basically got a story that basically fits what they aspire to. A heroine who is not only strong, but also a heroine who is out here in a world where she comes from Paradise Island, then meets the guy of her dreams, goes out and lives life with the guy of her dreams, and eventually then, as she's going out to live life with the guy of her dreams, then goes out here and takes on the enemy as related to the gods that she basically is serving. All of that was an ultimate dream fantasy for both women and men. For women, it was the fantasy of, again, the woman getting with the guy of their dreams. And for many of the women who liked action and adventure, it was the idea of going on an action and adventure quest with that guy of their dreams, having that romance and having that adventure. That's what really made Wonder Woman appealing. And when it comes down to the guys, it was seeing a beautiful woman going out here and them being able to have that adventure. All of that was stuff that made that movie fun. Unfortunately, when it came down to Supergirl, there was nothing there that anybody could relate to, or anything that anybody imagined themselves wanting to be like or aspire to be like. And that's where Supergirl basically fell completely apart, and definitely, as I see it, should not have been the second movie as related to the structuring of the DC cinematic universe. Now, James Gunn possibly thought, hey, I did this Superman movie and I'll follow it up with Supergirl, but that's not how you build a universe. And sadly, as he looked to build his universe, he did not build it with the proper structure as related to things. Because when I look at his 2025 Superman, his 2025 Superman is what I call super mid. And it's super mid because we had a beta male Superman just basically getting beat up for 2 hours. And that's not really a fantasy most people want to see. No, when we think of Superman, we think of a guy who has tremendous power and can go out here and beat up the bad guys and go out here and win. That's what made the Christopher Reeve movies enduring and made people basically love the first two Superman movies, was we got to see a hero going out here and again looking to do good and with somebody we could relate to. Unfortunately, with 2025 Superman, the film was bogged down by the whole Superman just being beat up and beat down, and also bogged down by other characters basically overshadowing him. So that was a weak foundation, and then they built on that foundation with a second movie about another character we just could not care about or relate to. And that's where we see the stumbling block as related to the DC cinematic universe, where James Gunn seems to have this a one-trick pony and this gimmick of just giving us these downtrodden, miserable characters. And when it comes down to Supergirl, we're seeing this formula basically of him cutting and pasting everything that was a success with Guardians of the Galaxy and basically making it the template for everything in his DC cinematic universe, from everything from Peacemaker to the Suicide Squad to stuff like Creature Commandos. Everything sadly feels the same and feels like it comes off the same assembly line that Marvel Studios basically did for many of its movies. And we sadly see with Supergirl, it feels like the same type of cut and paste. It feels like the same type of cut and paste that we got from previous James Gunn movies. And that's where Supergirl just didn't give us anything special as related to its story, because on top of it being an adaptation of Tom King, it basically felt like a cut and paste of many other previous James Gunn movies. And when it comes down to superhero movies, we're supposed to get something unique. Every story should be its own unique fingerprint and should show us and establish a mission for each character as it's part of a larger world. That's what a superhero movie should be. It should be where every character can stand out in their own separate movie. And that's what made Kevin Feige's early Marvel Cinematic Universe movies be very good, was that Iron Man was his own unique character, the Incredible Hulk was his own unique character, Captain America was his own unique character, and as we got to meet each of these unique characters, eventually everything culminated with the Avengers, where we got to see all of these characters come together in one movie to take on one big threat. And it's looking to me more like it's lightning in a bottle as related to that type of cinematic universe, because when it comes down to that type of cinematic universe, you need to have the right type of logistics in order to make that type of universe work. Unfortunately, with many of these studios, they look to rush these films out instead of taking their time, and they're looking to rush these films out in order to get the big box office, and that's what James Gunn basically did with Superman and Supergirl. That basically led to him tripping up at the start line, because as a writer myself, and who's gone out here and built an entire universe, the SJS Direct universe, I can tell you from my experience, you can't rush building a universe of characters. No, building a universe of characters is something that takes time and really takes a lot of nuance. I can tell you that based on what I did when I was writing my novel, The Temptation of John Haynes, which is the foundation of the SJS Direct universe, that what you want to do when you're doing a building a universe is start out by establishing your lead character first, and then as you establish your lead character, then you throw little nuanced hints as related to other characters coming in the universe. Now, I started out with John Haynes in The Temptation of John Haynes. I then brought the Esteem character over from the ISIS book from 2002. And as the story was going on, eventually John Haynes goes to the Ujamaa conference, and it's at the Ujamaa conference that we see a statue of Isis. And that statue of Isis basically allows me to bring Isis in, not to mention a reference to Esteem looking up at the sky and saying, "My father knows where to find me." All of that was just basically very nuanced in introducing the universe. And then later on, I did the book Isis Omari's Revenge to bring the Isis character back. But when I brought the Isis character back, I did not reference the 2002 book. No, I came in with a brand new story and established a new story for Isis. And as I established that new story for Isis, that gave us a way of seeing this heroine and her mission in the world, and allowed us to see what she was doing. That's what I was doing as I was building my universe. I made sure that each block basically fit into each other. And eventually what happened was in 2016, I came out with The Man Who Rules the World, which was a story that featured all of the characters and made everything basically flow together so that that event could be one that was strong. Unfortunately, when it came down to Supergirl basically was not a solid movie for building the DC Cinematic Universe, already on the shaky ground of Superman. And the big problem I saw as a writer of heroines was that when it came down to Supergirl basically was not a strong lead enough character to lead her own movie. No, she wasn't like when I did with Esteem, where I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to have the supporting character be the lead in her own book, but I'm going to make sure that there's enough elements of story, because with Esteem, when she turned into a heroine, what happened was she was now against Lucifer and against the demons in his legion. So she already had a built-in rogues gallery and basically a reason to fight that rogues gallery. But with Supergirl, we didn't really see a reason for us to care about her. We didn't see where she had a mission related to Earth. We didn't see how she was building a life in any way, shape, or form like the CW Supergirl was. I mean, the CW Supergirl was a much stronger and better developed character. And when it came to the CW Supergirl, there was a character there we could relate to in that first season. Unfortunately, in the second season, they pushed a lot of feminism and identity politics and alienated the audience. But with the first season of Supergirl, they did show her as a lead character with her own mission and direction. And that was something that was sorely lacking from the Supergirl movie. It just lacked that the character did not have a focus or a direction. She was just a miserable woman. And again, people don't want to go out here and pay money to see somebody miserable when they've got relatives they can see for free, or the 6 o'clock news they can see for free. No, when you have a heroine, you have to go out here and give us someone we can relate to, someone who has experiences with us. This is why Buffy and Xena were so popular. Buffy and Xena basically were so popular because they gave us heroines we could relate to. I mean, in the case of Xena, yes, she started out as a bad guy on Hercules, but eventually it was her story arc of redemption and her relationship with Gabrielle that basically drove that series. And I emphasize relationship because one of the core things when you're doing heroines is that it's not all about beating the bad guys. It's all about relationships that the heroine has, because women are social, and because women are social, it's all about the relationships they have with people. That was one of the things that made Wonder Woman a success, because Diana, it was all about her relationships with her mother and the women on Paradise Island. It was all about her relationship with Steve Trevor. It was all about the relationship she was having as she was on this adventure. That was what made her a relatable heroine, was the relationship she had. And the same thing with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If we look at Buffy, one of the things that made Buffy one of the most endearing shows of the 1990s was the fact that Buffy had this strong friendship with Xander and Willow, and even with people like Cordelia and Faith, and even people like Giles. It was all about all the relationships Buffy had as she was taking on vampires, not to mention the relationship she had with guys like Angel and Spike. I mean, everything when you're writing heroines is completely different than you write a hero, and that's where this screenwriter got it wrong, because she was looking to try to write this female heroine the way you would write a male, and that's the formula for failure that basically wound up destroying many movies like Wonder Woman 84, Captain Marvel, the Marvels, and the Terminator Dark Fate movies. Was you were trying to write this heroine like a masculine hero. But when it comes down to heroines, from my personal experience as someone who has gone out here and written multiple heroines, what makes a successful heroine is that you have to write a heroine all about several elements. One is the relationships that this heroine has as she goes on the heroine's journey. That's core to her story. And the other thing you want to do is go out here and show this heroine going through the heroine's journey, where she basically has to go through some losses. And again, the way women lose is different from the way men lose. I mean, when a woman loses, it's very different, because when a man loses, it's the bad guy beat him, but when it's the woman, it's all about the other woman humiliating her, so it becomes personal to her as related to overcoming, because she wants to reestablish her face and reestablish her social standing. That's a core part that many people miss out as related to heroines, because women are not only social, but they're also emotional as well. And when it comes to a woman does not like to lose face, and that's why humiliation is very frustrating to her. And I talk about this in several of my books, like Isis All That Glitters, Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, and Isis Bride of Dracula. I show how the Isis character has to overcome not only the adversary, but overcome, her issues as related to losing face. And basically, because when a woman loses face, she feels like she's lost the respect of people. And these are things that basically were missing from Supergirl. They were missing, and because they were missing, there was no way for the average man or woman to relate to this character or have a reason to care about this character, who basically went on this quest to save her dog, which wasn't enough to make you care about this character. It just wasn't enough to make you sit there and say, hey, I want to spend money to go see this movie. And when I look at Supergirl, again, there wasn't enough of a story there to show her growth as related to a heroine. No, she was just miserable at the start of the movie. She was miserable in the middle of the movie. She was miserable in the end of the movie. And that's not going to go out here and give people a reason to go out here and see it, because people, when they want to go to the movies, they want to go to the movies for on a hopeful note, and you always want to end your movie on an up note. When it comes down to movies, it's very different than TV or even streaming. You want your characters to end on an up note where you feel like there's some sense of hope. And sadly, with Supergirl's story, again, Tom King, he always gives us these miserable characters like he is doing right now in his Wonder Woman run. And he's basically not giving you anything that you, could care about. And that's the reason why Supergirl basically just stumbled out of the gate. I mean, there was nothing there that anybody could relate to, no man or woman could relate to. And this is a bad place for the DC Cinematic Universe. I mean, you're 2 movies in, and you didn't leave a strong first impression on the viewer. You didn't leave a strong first impression to give the viewer a reason to care about future projects. And the upcoming projects like Lanterns don't really give you that reason to care. So when I'm looking at this DC Cinematic Universe, I'm looking at a universe that's basically on the verge of collapse. And as I look at this universe being on the verge of collapse, it's sadly what happens when you have a Hollywood executive who doesn't really have a good vision. Because I thought James Gunn would have had a good vision based on what he presented in Shazam. Because what he presented in Shazam was really fresh and different. But sadly, as he's gotten success from Guardians of the Galaxy, he's basically just not cared about anything he's done. And as he's not cared, he's basically lost a step. And as he's lost this step, he basically has stumbled right out of the gate with the DC Cinematic Universe and given us a Supergirl movie that shows us the possible beginning of the end of this universe before it even starts. Now, if you want to check out the heroines of the SJS Direct Universe and see how I write heroines, you can pick up the books in the ISIS series, the Esteem series, and other books I've written featuring heroines like Eternal Night, and other books that I've done, like books in the Spinsterella series like Spellbound, The Legendary Mad Matilda, and Spinsterella, to see how I write heroines and basically see stories that are, while they have the women going through a full character transformation arc, still have a lot of fun and hope. And you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about science fiction and fantasy and Hollywood overall, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers. E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today.
Now available in paperback and e-readers. ISIS Runway of Doom. The goddess next door struts her stuff on the catwalk to take on a runway of rogues in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Runway of Doom at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Esteem a New Woman. The devilish diva starts on the road to becoming a new creature in Christ in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem a New Woman at Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Now available in paperback and e-readers. Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse. The man who rules the world gets a job offer he can't refuse in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.